TalkTainmentRadio.com.
We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We've got the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Go ahead. Make my day.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard. Oh, by the way, you can catch the Compensatory Concept every Wednesday. You can catch us live at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on every Wednesday, or you can go to TalkTainmentRadio.com. Look up programs. For those of you who might say, well, what did he say? I said Talktainment Radio. Let me spell that for you. It's TalkTainment. Now, what we did, we took out the word enter to the word entertainment. You know how everybody knows the word entertainment. Well, you take off the E-N-T-E-R. Took that off. And we said, well, we're talktainers. We use talk as a mechanism to entertain, but equally as important, and maybe more important, we use it to inform, to make aware, to stimulate thought, etc., etc., etc. So we are Talktainment Radio. All you have to do is take out the enter into talk, and spell the entertainment, take out the word enter and put in the word talk, and it becomes TalkTainmentRadio.com. And it's radio, the way it should be heard, the world's greatest radio. And you can go to programs. Once you go to Talktainment Radio, go to programs, and then click Compensatory Concept, Compensatory, Compensatory Concept, and then look at the podcasts. Podcasts are essentially rebroadcasts of shows that have been done before that you may have missed or that you want to get into. They call them pod. It's kind of a nifty term, pod. You know what a pod is. That's something that's just sitting there waiting to be incubated, and once you touch it, it opens up and it comes forward. Well, that's what we do here. So we call them, in this world, the language is podcast. But we do Compensatory Concept every week at 10 a.m. live, and then you can podcast it or you can go here, rebroadcast, and then it's rebroadcast all day today. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the new schedule for broadcasting on Wednesday. If you don't catch it live, there are other times that you can hear the Compensatory Concept. You can hear it, for example, at 3 o'clock today on Wednesday. So you'll get a chance if you miss it, and then you can hear it tonight at 10 p.m. So you'll be able to hear it on Wednesdays. It'll have 3 broadcasts today. You'll hear it live at 10 a.m. If you miss that, you can catch it at 3 p.m. And then if you're home tonight at 10, or if you're on your phone, or if you're on your iPad, etc., you can hear the Compensatory Concept at 10 o'clock tonight. So you'll have plenty of time to hear today's broadcast as well. You can go get it at the podcast. So there's no excuse, no reason for you not to get all of your information from today's broadcast. Now, joining me once again live from Washington, D.C. in the 10 o'clock in the morning hour. Now, he's not live at night at 10 o'clock. So probably we may have to stop saying that, because some people say, oh, you're live at 10 o'clock at night, and they may be calling. No. It's 10 a.m., but he is rebroadcast tonight at 10 p.m. and today at 3 p.m. Joining me is Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., who joins me every week at this same time. Mr. Fuller, how are you, sir?
I'm still learning.
Mr. Fuller, tell us the name of your book and how people can get in contact with those books and maybe even get in contact with you if they wish to speak to you directly.
Basic title of the book is The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Those words don't mean anything until you get into the book, and they're explained in the book. But there is a subtitle that tells you what the book is about right up front. A textbook, workbook for thought, speech, and/or action for victims of racism. That's a textbook, workbook for thinking, speaking, and acting for people who are victims of racism, racism being white supremacy. And then there's a additional book that just came out that has words in it. There's nothing but words in the book, and the words are supposed to tell people how to use words, what words to look for when other people use these words, what questions to ask, how words shouldn't be used, what words that should be used and how they should be used, and why they should be used in a certain way, and the words that not to be used at all. These are simply suggestions. And you don't have to take these suggestions because everything in both of the books are about suggestions or viewpoints from my perspective. But you don't have to agree with them. In fact, you shouldn't unless you can see that they are useful to the individual person, because everything in both books are directed to individual persons. That's why they are called the United Independent System concept.
Mm-hmm.
They're directed to individual persons, so that individuals are by themselves most of the time. Each individual, most people are not welded together. So that means that they are by themselves most of the times. They're alone. They're alone on the job. When they have to go and explain something to the supervisor or something like that. When they're being evaluated, you're evaluated alone, usually not as a group. Sometimes as a group, but you're evaluated as a person, a single person. So there should be something that's directed to the people on the planet who are victims of racism about what to do in circumstances they find themselves in, that one individual person. Because you look around, most people like to kind of look around and see if they got some buddies with them. People who have a herd mentality are kind of oriented that way. And the white supremacists in the system of white supremacy have always tried to group black people together so that no individual black person has any particular abilities at all. It's only when they can lean on someone else. And each one will have a little bit, but not enough. And there will be maybe 300 slaves on a ship, but no one slave knows what to do about anything. They will always have to move as a group in order to get anything done. Now, the white supremacists, when they invented the system of white supremacy, they said, always let each individual know just a little bit, but not enough to function as an individual ever. Never enough for one individual to go anywhere and function as an individual to maximum capacity. We don't want that. We want them to have a cattle psychology, a herd psychology, a sheep psychology, so that each one always has to depend on another for something or another that they essentially have to have. And then ultimately, all of them will have to depend on us as white supremacists. That was the original philosophy, and it has worked very well. Now, you can get both the basic book and the additional word guide by punching up on your computer the word tiny, that's TINY .cc// then the word Fuller, all in capital letters. That's the word tiny .cc// then the word Fuller in capital letters.
Okay. Now, Ted Nugent, who is I guess they call him a rock star, made some comments the other day, and I want to
Supreme Court
play them for
then
you.
don't get involved and let Obama take office again. Because I tell you this right now, if Barack Obama becomes the president in November again, I will either be dead or in jail by this time next year. Why are you laughing? You think that's funny? That's not funny at all. I'm serious as a heart attack. So, being at the NRA event, God bless you, good indicator. But if you can't go home and get everybody in your lives to clean house in this vile, evil, America-hating administration, I don't even know what you're made out of. And if you're taking offense at that, tough. I see warriors amongst us. I see people who get it. You made a lot of sacrifice to be here at NRA. It's a long trip for a lot of you. You're giving up valuable time to make a statement for freedom. If you can't galvanize and promote and recruit people to vote for Mitt Romney, we're done. We'll be a suburb of Indonesia next year. Our president and attorney general, our vice president, Hillary Clinton, they're criminals. They're criminals. A guy on the radio the other day said, well, name the crimes. About 10 minutes later, I said, have you had enough? I mean, who doesn't know the crimes our government is committing? So, God bless you for being here. I feel
okay, Neely, that was the comments of Ted Nugent. My understanding is that the Secret Service is looking into his words about Obama. He told the National Rifle Association members over the weekend, quote, this is his quote, not mine. He says, I will either be dead or in jail by this time next year if President Obama is reelected. Rocker Ted Nugent has now attracted the attention of the Secret Service. They said, we are aware of the incident and are conducting appropriate follow-up. Nugent, who is known for his conservative views, love of guns, and for saying things about liberals that many finds offensive, isn't backing down. He says, I will stand by my speech, he said on the Dana Loesch radio show Tuesday. It was 100% positive. It was about we the people taking back our American dream from the corrupt monsters in the federal government under this administration and the communist czars Obama has appointed. Mr. Fuller, I don't know if you're aware of these remarks. This kind of made the news. What's your thought on what you heard?
Well, my thought on what I heard is that he said what he said. And so there's a term that's in the word guide that I've just put out called stand by your work. So he's doing the talking. He can stand by his work.
Well,
that's my comment.
Well, that's
whatever it is.
Well, now, do you know who Ted Nugent is?
No, sir.
Okay, Ted Nugent is a white musician. And he was speaking at the National Rifle Association over the weekend. And he is what they call a rocker. It means he plays so-called rock music. I believe that's who he is. And he is a conservative political person. And, of course, he's supporting Romney. But saying that believes that everybody needs to, Mitt Romney, of course, issued a statement saying that divisive language is offensive no matter what side of the political aisle it comes from. Mitt Romney believes everybody needs to be civil. Now we can add Nugent's dead or in jail remark to the expanding list of campaign controversies, which last week saw the addition of Democratic consultant Hillary Rosen's comment that Ann Romney has never worked a day in her life. So how do you now this comes from a white musician. Now, I'm not sure what the words mean. I will either be dead or in jail. How do you see, if you had to look at words like that, what would they say to you?
Well, what my books are about is counter-racism, how to counter racism. So what I'm required to say, according to the counter-racist code, is that he said what he said, and he can interpret what he said if anybody asks him exactly what do you mean by all of this. Because if I was talking to him and I was told to ask questions, that would be my questions. What do you mean exactly by what you're saying? What do you mean by you're saying you're conservative, that you're backing the NRA? You're backing the NRA in order to do what? What is the NRA? And what is this talk about President Obama and that you being dead sometimes next year, whatever that means, or after he's elected? What do you mean by you being dead? You being dead as a result of what? I mean, that would be my line of questioning. I want details. See, you always need details if you're going to get clarity. That's what I try to do in the books that I've written, and that is detail, and clarity, and focus, so that we'll know what we're trying to accomplish. Now, the word American was used, that somebody being anti-American. Well, nobody's supposed to be anti-American. So, anti-American by doing what? No one is supposed to be anti-American?
Hold on, Mr. Fuller. Let me be clear about what it is that he is quoted as saying. He said it was 100% positive. This is reference to the statements he's made. It's about we the people taking back our American dream from the corrupt monsters in the federal government under this administration and the communist czars Obama has appointed. So the term anti-American, he's saying it's about people taking back our American dream from the corrupt monsters in the federal government. So when you said anti-American, I just wanted you to be clear.
Oh, okay, I got it.
On what he is quoted as the language that he is quoted as using, in particular, the language that has attracted the attention of the Secret Service.
Yes, taking back the American dream. That was a part of the quote.
Yeah, it's about we the people taking back our American dream from.
Okay, I would start the codified procedures to start with just the first part of the sentence. We the people. Okay, first of all, what people are you talking about, Mr. Nugent? Who are the people you're talking about before we move any further? See, that's that magic that people who I suspect sometimes are racist, in which the code requires me to suspect a racist to operate this way, and that is to talk fast. I mean, talk so fast that you can't really pick up on what's being said, but you know that something is being said, but you can't quite pinpoint what it is. So first thing you do is slow everything down, frame by frame, just like you do when you're going over a crime scene, because racism is a criminal procedure. It's a criminal act. All acts of racism, the existence of racism, is criminal. So therefore, the whole world is a crime scene dominated by white supremacists. So the whole world is a crime scene dominated by the crime of racism. So if you're going to investigate those criminal activities, you take everything frame by painful frame. And so you start with this thing about we the people. And you say, Mr. Nugent, what do you mean when you say we, meaning we, collectively, meaning more than one, the people, more than one person? Okay? What people are you talking about? Are you including me? And if you're including me, in what frame of reference? In what context? Me doing what? And you're trying to take back what? A dream? Now, taking it back from whom? I mean, who stole a dream? Did somebody make off with a dream sometimes in the middle of the night, or what? What are you talking about? Let's take it frame by frame. See, and that's the way I'd have to walk through it. That's what I've written my book for. The compensatory code, making up for what's missing. That's what compensatory means. Making up for what's missing. And what's missing in those statements that Mr. Nugent made, apparently, is clarity. Because a lot of people are running around, including myself right now, trying to figure out, what does all that mean? Because the first thing you lose, if you're dealing with a suspected racist, I'm not saying that Mr. Nugent is a racist, but if he's white and he's on this planet in the system of white supremacy, there is a chance that he may be one. But we can find that out by examining what he says and does frame by frame.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to examine Ted Nugent's words frame by frame, and we're going to look at it within the context of the word guide, because there are obviously some words that are very, very trigger-based words and have a whole lot of meaning that set things in motion. We've got more with Mr. Neely Fuller on the compensatory concept, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, coming up next.
Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Hey there, my name is Athena, and I have some exciting news I would like to share with you about our ministry. And yes, it's happening right here in the city of Columbus at Kingdom Power Baptist Church, where you're cordially invited to attend our worship service. Are you looking for a ministry where you can grow? Do you desire to be a part of a church family where you're not just a number? Do you yearn to exercise your spiritual gifts in the body of Christ? Whether you are a seeker or steep in the faith, Kingdom Power is for you. We are currently worshiping every Sunday at 1980 West Broad Street, the ODOT Building Auditorium. Worship begins at 11:30 a.m. Our pastor is the Reverend Quentin Lamar Respress I. Come on, in anticipation of a blessing and a breakthrough. It's happening at 1980 West Broad Street, the ODOT Building Auditorium. At 11:30 a.m., 1980 West Broad Street, the ODOT Building Auditorium. Worship begins at 11:30 a.m.
At Amway, positivity starts on our own organic farms. Farms where we harvest plant nutrients for our top quality products. Products that help people lead healthier lives, that drive successful businesses, and that ultimately make positive differences in their communities. That's the power of positive. That's Amway. To learn more, contact an Amway independent business owner.
What can you do with City Thank You Points? You can unleash your husband's inner rock star.
Just like that. The new City Thank You Premier Card gives you more ways to earn points. What's your story? City can help you write it.
I'm George Foreman. There is a place where ordinary people do extraordinary things every day. That place is the American Red Cross. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcross.org to learn more.
Are there hidden sex words that impact your brain? Are there secret images and symbols that manipulate and control your child's mind and behavior? Why are so many youth unable to resist the destructive sexual messages beamed into their brain without them knowing they are being manipulated? Do you want answers? Get the new book, Sex Code War by Kahari and Ahara, coming soon.
Hello, may I have your attention, please? Here's how to pull up Talktainment Radio and their great quality programs.
Talktainment, all we did was remove the word entertainment. Remember the word entertainment? We took out the E-N-T-R and we put talk in front of it. The rest of it spelled the same. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Go there. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Hit programs. And then you'll see the programs that are put in the podcast. We have 8 there, 8 past programs. And if you want more than 8, all you'd have to do is give us a call at 228-2200.
The world's greatest radio, TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
Well, you know this guy who's sitting down right next to me.
Don't get involved in little take office again. Because I tell you this right now, if Barack Obama becomes the president in November again, I will either be dead or in jail by this time next year. Why are you laughing? You think that's funny? That's not funny at all. I'm serious as a heart attack. So, being at the NRA event, God bless you, good indicator. But if you can't go home and get everybody in your lives to clean house in this vile, evil, America-hating administration, I don't even know what you're made out of. And if you're taking offense...
Mr. Neely Fuller is joining us. You've heard the words of Ted Nugent. I'm Brother Kahari. Of course, I sit in every week with Mr. Fuller. These remarks were made, I believe, April 14th at the 2012 NRA annual meeting in St. Louis. A guy by the name of Cam Edwards talks to Nugent, and he takes questions from NRA members. Now, these comments have created quite a firestorm, and they're going to be used politically as statements. As a matter of fact, Mitt Romney is trying to distance himself from these statements by issuing a statement that saying divisive language is offensive no matter what side of the political aisle it comes from. Mitt Romney believes everyone needs to be civil. We can now add, and now they're trying to put Nugent's dead or in jail remark to the expanding list of campaign controversies, including Hillary Rosen's comment about Ann Romney has never worked a day in her life. So any comments, any words that are used in any context now, it's become an extremely word-sensitive social order. And that's probably, it's always been that way. But now people are gaining some sense or greater awareness of the power of words and how they're being used and the impact that they have on people. Now, Mr. Fuller, you've written a book, a word guide book as a companion to your compensatory concept work. And in that word guide, I noticed that some of the words that Ted Nugent were using, I saw in there words like American, words like government, words like communist, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here's what it is that he is quoted. Ted Nugent is that you heard him say. I'll read it, and it's his quote. He said that he told the National Rifle Association members over this past weekend that I will either be dead or in jail by this time next year if President Obama is reelected. Now, that's what Ted Nugent said. And, of course, his comments have now attracted the attention of the Secret Service. Secret Service says, we are aware of the incident and we are conducting appropriate follow-up. Nugent, who is known for his conservative views, love of guns, and saying things about liberals that many find offensive, isn't backing down. Quote, Nugent says, I will stand by my speech. He said this on Dana Loesch's radio show Tuesday. He said it was 100% positive. This is what Nugent's saying, and I'm putting it in quotes. And this comes from the National Public Radio website. All of this is coming from the National Public Radio website. He said, and you can go there and look at it. Just look up the name of Ted Nugent, N-U-G-E-N-T. He said it was 100. Ted Nugent said, and I quote, it was 100% positive. It is about we, the people, taking back our American dream from the corrupt monsters in the federal government under this administration and the communist czars Obama has appointed. And he goes on to say, I have never in my life threatened anyone's life, he added. Now, Mr. Fuller, there were some key words or more what I would call trigger terms in his statement. I will go through, and I know you've heard it. I've played it for you, and I've read it. Based on what you heard me read, what would be some of the words that you would want to have greater understanding of? Like you said, we go word by word, and that's what we're going to do on his statements. What words would immediately send off a trigger to you if you heard them?
Well, the American dream, and you also said something about communist czars. Is that correct?
That is correct.
First of all, I want definitions. What's the American dream? Because I have a compensatory definition on page 13 of my word guide about what the American dream is and or should be in the minds of everybody throughout the world. And it goes directly to racism, but this is just strictly full of suggestion about what the American dream is. It says, use the term to mean replace white supremacy with justice. That should be the American dream. Why? based on logic, because the biggest impediment on this planet to the practice of justice, justice meaning guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in every area of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So the American dream, logically speaking, in a compensatory fashion, meaning making up for what's missing. And what's missing is the dream hasn't been realized. So the first thing you would equate the American dream with is justice. Justice meaning just what I said it was, in a logical sense, in a compensatory sense, guaranteeing that no person is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help in all areas of activity. But in order to do that, the biggest impediment, a question is raised, what's holding up the dream from being realized? Martin Luther King said it was racism. Most people who examine everything in detail say, yes, it's racism. There are all kinds of seminars that are being held right now. There are being trials being held, and people being locked up, and people being released, and all about discussions about racism. People have to have conferences constantly, and they come away shaking their heads saying, what can we do about racism? Racism in what form? Who's practicing racism? Well, last time I checked, it was what we might call the system of white supremacy. That's the only form of functional racism on the planet. So in order to realize the American dream, you have to get rid of racism. So I would have to ask Mr. Nugent, do you mean by retaining the American dream, or being able to keep it, or to realize it, to take it from a dream to reality, get rid of the system of white supremacy? Then we would be on the same page. But if he's talking about something else, then he would explain what that something else is. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. He seems to be quite gifted in explaining himself and what he means, so I won't help him with that. I would just simply ask, what do you mean, Mr. Nugent, when you say you want to recapture, or you want to retain, or you want to take back the American dream? Not that anybody can steal a dream. I don't see how you can steal a dream, but maybe you can. Mr. Nugent can probably explain that. Then he used another word called communism, or communist czars. Well, now, if I'm accusing someone of being a communist czar, that's supposed to be serious, I've been told. So the first thing you want to know is, what is a communist? And what is a communist czar? And what is the evidence that the communist czar is doing whatever a communist czar does, and whether or not that is something that shouldn't be done? But first of all, you have to have a definition for what you're talking about, if you're going to have clarity and focus. Now, I would just start with those two words, America, okay. Those two phrases.
Now I think people now begin to get a sense of what it is that you are talking about. Now, the other big news from last week, of course, was George Zimmerman in the Trayvon Martin situation. He turned himself in, and people were wondering where he was hiding. He was charged with second-degree murder. Now, Mr. Fuller, all the language surrounding this case, I know you've had a chance to look at it and study it, or at least, be aware of it. Are there any words from the Trayvon Martin situation or the George Zimmerman case, Trayvon Martin, etc., that stand out to you, that catch your attention? I remember I asked you this once, and I don't know if you had time to really focus that way, but let's say I know you've had time now. Is there any phrasings, language, trigger words, keywords, etc., that constantly are used that stand out to you, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, and one of them includes the word stand. Stand your ground. I haven't seen the law on that, so I don't know what that means. And I think that's why we have confusion. In a racial situation, in a world that's dominated by the system of white supremacy, confusion is the one thing that always works in the interest of the people who believe in the practice and the concept of white supremacy. So the first thing you have to get is clarity about the words that are used, because these are the basic tools, other than direct violence, of the white supremacists. So when a term like stand your ground shows up on the radar, first thing you want to know is exactly what does that mean, particularly when it's supposed to be a quote-unquote legal term. So you need clarity on that. I do not have clarity on that. That's the first thing I would have to have if I'm going to really talk about the Trayvon Martin case in a clear and focused manner, in the interest of trying to produce a product called justice, because that's the whole reason that anybody should be doing anything. That's the whole reason for breathing, is to try to produce a product called justice, because that's the one thing that's really missing on this planet. You can't even get love without justice. That's out of the question.
So what you're saying is that that's the only term that stands out to you, is stand your ground?
No, that's not the only one, but that's the one that I would start with. I would have to find out exactly. It seems like that's still vague. Somewhere in the picture it keeps popping up. Well, this whole thing started with the stand your ground law. That's what Mr. Zimmerman is talking about. He, and his
it would
lawyers
appear that his people are using, or maybe they aren't using, but the so-called people in the media tend to keep throwing this out and using that, and some other people may be saying there's a reason to justify or as a cover for the alleged behavior. That seems to be what you're talking about. Is there any other terms that you've heard that make this different or stand out to you than what we have heard before?
Oh, many terms, but they flow from the stand your ground phrase. Self-defense, permit to carry a weapon, the gated community. What's a gated community?
Yeah. That's the one I wanted to stop on, the gated community. See, and these words are thrown at us, and we just pick them up and start repeating them with an assumption that we know what's being talked about. Now, how can a term like gated community create confusion, Mr. Fuller?
I don't know. Well, it's created confusion simply because I don't know what a gated community is. And if you're talking about gated, you're talking about a gate, I guess. And a gate in order to do what? And what part of the community is gated and what part of the non-community is not gated, and for what reasons? And gated against or for or with or by whom? In order to do what? And in order to accomplish what and how to accomplish it? By standing your ground in a gated community? Well, now, Mr. Trayvon Martin possibly could be said to be standing his ground in a gated community, depending on does the gated community apply to him, and if so, in what way? Where is the gate for him? Where is the gate against him? Where is the gate for him? Who is supposed to be gated? G-A-T-E-D. Who's gated and who's not gated? Who are the gated people and who are the non-gated people? And according to what? What criteria? And looking suspicious. The word says suspicious. Well, now, I have said in my textbook that any white person who is able to be a racist probably is one. That's why I have said specifically that a person should never say that a white person is a racist. Because in a system of racism, you have to prove it by someone most likely who is a racist. So what you do is use a compensatory term saying suspected racist. So any white person who is able, underline able, to be a racist should be suspected of being one, logically speaking, in a system of racism. Now, of course, if someone says, well, there's no such thing as a system of racism, well, then that wouldn't apply. But I'm saying that the entire planet is under the system, the government of white supremacy. That's the only government on the planet. All other so-called governments do not exist.
So
you can't have what you call sub-governments in an overall government, because the overall government would be just any so-called sub-governments would just be part and parcel of the overall government. So if the principal, the primary government, is in capital letters, the government of white supremacy, I prefer to call it the system of white supremacy, then everything that goes on is in the system of white supremacy, and the white supremacists are always to blame for anything that happens in that system.
Okay,
like the captain of a ship.
Mr. Fuller, stay right there. More to come as we get back into understanding the power of words. We're going to take a look at words like the federal government. We're going to take a look at words like corrupt monsters. We're going to look at all the words swirling around the Trayvon Martin case. More to come with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
At Amway, positivity starts on our own organic farms. Farms where we harvest plant nutrients for our top quality products. Products that help people lead healthier lives. That drive successful businesses. And that ultimately make positive differences in their communities. That's the power of positive. That's Amway. To learn more, contact an Amway independent business owner.
What can you do with City Thank You points? You can unleash your husband's inner rock star.
Just like that. The new City Thank You Premier Card gives you more ways to earn points. What's your story? City can help you write it.
I'm George Foreman. There is a place where ordinary people do extraordinary things every day. That place is the American Red Cross. When you help the American Red Cross, you help America. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS or visit redcross.org to learn more.
For some things, it's okay to sponge off your parents. The occasional free home-cooked meal? Sponge away. But when it comes to car insurance, the time comes to do a big, grown-up thing. Give your parents a break and get car insurance in your own name. When you're ready for your own insurance, go to statefarm.com and find a State Farm agent. A State Farm agent will set you up with a policy that meets your needs and your budget. So get a State Farm agent. There's no better way to assert your independence.
Are there hidden sex words that impact your brain? Are there secret images and symbols that manipulate and control your child's mind and behavior? Why are so many youth unable to resist the destructive sexual messages beamed into their brain without them knowing they are being manipulated? Do you want answers? Get the new book, Sex Code War by Kahari and Ahara, coming soon.
Hello, may I have your attention please? Here's how to pull up Talktainment Radio and their great quality programs.
Talktainment, all we did was remove the word entertainment. Remember the word entertainment? We took out the E-N-T-R and we put talk in front of it. The rest of it spelled the same. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Go there. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Hit programs. And then you'll see the programs that are put in the podcast. We have 8 there, 8 past programs. And if you want more than 8, all you'd have to do is give us a call at 228-2200.
The world's greatest radio, TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I'll have a 16-ounce soda.
I'll have a 48-ounce bucket of cola.
Notice how we're drinking more soft drinks than ever?
Yeah, I'll have a drum of pop.
A lot more. And probably not brushing right after. Chew on this. Chewing Trident after sugared soft drinks can actually help prevent cavities from forming. When you're not free to brush...
Can I just stick my head under the spigot?
Chew on this. Trident.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. Radio, the way it should be heard, the world's greatest radio. Joining me every week at this time, of course, is Mr. Neely Fuller. You can catch him live at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays on TalkTainmentRadio.com, or you can catch Mr. Fuller this afternoon at 3 p.m. If you miss him at 10, this show is replayed at 3 p.m., or you can hear it tonight at 10 p.m., all on Wednesday. And also, you can go to the podcast. If you can't make either of those 3 times today, you can go and hear Mr. Fuller on the podcast. You can get past shows. So there's lots of the Compensatory Concept on TalkTainmentRadio.com. All right, Mr. Fuller, we are discussing words from your... There are key words in your word guide. What does the word guide say about the term federal government?
Well, federal government, I don't know if that term is in there or not, but
what does it say about federal? Because that's obviously one of the points that is going to be kicked around a lot. Federalism, federal this, federal that. Is there anything that it says about those terms?
Well, I don't think I have the word federal in the word guide, but that would be, since it's not in there, the procedure would be automatically that when a person uses a word, that's the procedure. If any person who uses the word federal should be able to explain what it means. And you always ask that person, not what somebody else says that it means, because each individual sometimes interprets a word his or her own way. Most people do this in their ordinary conversation. So if the word is important to me, and I hear a person use that word to me, and that word, I haven't covered that word in the word guide, I automatically will ask the person, what do you mean, ma'am? What do you mean, sir, when you say federal or federalized? What does that federal mean? Because I don't really know what you mean when you say that. And what would that mean and what would it not mean? And so that I can get what? Clarity and focus. Because in any conversation, if you don't have that, there's just a lot of wandering around forever.
Now, Mr. Fuller, you used to be employed, I believe, by the federal government, and you've been in the military, which is also considered the federal government. Now, when you heard that term federal, what went off? What did it say to you?
To this day, I have no idea. And that's the truth.
Really?
To this day, I have no idea of the essence of these words.
Well, did you ask
the word federal?
Did you ask people who were supposed to know, and what did they say?
I never asked.
Why?
Because it never occurred to me to ask.
Ah. Okay. I take it there's a reason why it never occurred to you to ask.
Yes, and it's just occurred to me right now to pay attention to that word. See, I haven't paid attention to every word in the English language.
Oh, sure.
You just mentioned federal just now. And so now it is part of my duties to find out exactly what that word means.
Well, this
what
word,
it doesn't mean.
This word has great use. Federal grant, yes. Federal takeover, federal crime. It can go ad infinitum. It has enormous use. Federal elections, federal funding. I've dealt with that word all of my life. And yes. Like the word state, like the word local, like the word county. These are all part of our governmental structures. So the word federal, you spell it Fed, and then they even shorten it to Fed. The Fed is coming in, or the Feds, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It does raise the question: what does the word federal mean?
I have a vague idea of what it could mean, but it is so vague that I only use the word because I'm told to use the word. But I do not know exactly what that word means to this day, even with my vague idea, because I would not even attempt to explain what federal means with the vague idea I have of what it could mean, because it is so vague that I use the term, but I use it within the context of the way other people are using it. And it's just one of those words that does not have a clear definition.
Well,
in my mind.
here's some of the...
And I tend to believe that if I looked it up in a dictionary, it still would not have a clear definition.
It says...
Because many words in dictionaries don't.
All right, under federal, you get the word made up of allies. You get the word central. You get the word associated, of U.S. architectural style. So you get the word made up of allies, central, associated, supporter of alliances, of union. So you get federalist. You get all kinds of words that come with that term. And does that make it clearer to you, or does that?
Are you looking at that right now?
Yes, I am.
And it says, what's that first thing that it says?
Well, hold on. I need to go back to it. The word is federal. Supporter of alliances is one term.
Well, hold it right there. That's enough right there.
Right.
Supporter of alliances.
That is correct.
Now, to me, that is extremely confusing.
Why?
What is a supporter of alliances? What alliance? Alliance with what? What is an alliance? I mean, I got an idea about what an alliance is. Everybody's allied with something. A supporter of alliances?
Yeah,
that's federal.
Yeah, made up of allies.
Made up of allies.
Central,
allies meaning
associated.
what?
Allies are people who are working together.
People who are working together.
Who have a common goal, have a common interest. That's what an ally is.
When and where and under what circumstances? See, that's what I mean by vagueness. I mean, I am allied with the person who is driving the bus if I'm on the bus. You can say that's an alliance. That's some type of contract that we made. When I got on the bus, I paid my fare, I took my seat. Now, I am allied with the bus driver because I have a contract with the bus driver for the bus driver to take me where I want to go according to the route that's been laid out. But when I get off the bus, how much of an ally am I to the ally that I just had? Because I may not even know the bus driver's name. So what is an ally? What is my alliance? That's a brief contract. I don't have that contract once I get off the bus. If something happens to me 2 blocks down the street after I get off the bus, and they ask the bus driver about it, the bus driver can say, well, all I know is he got on the bus, and I took him to such and such a street, and, because he asked me, did I go to that street? And I told him yes, and when he got off on the bus, and so that altercation that he had with someone 2 blocks away after he got off the bus, I don't know anything about it, sir. I'm just a bus driver. I mean, that's somebody else's business. You all have to look into that. Any altercation that he didn't have it on this bus. So I'm not allied with that altercation. So why are you asking me? I mean, I've answered all the questions that I can ask that pertain to me as a quote-unquote ally of that so-called bus rider that was on my bus until he got off the bus. So what are we talking about here? I would have to ask the people, like I said in the beginning, when these words come up, any word in any language, the best that I can do in the procedure, according to what I have written, is always ask the person who is using the term, what do you mean, sir?
Speaking of which,
what do you mean,
Got you. Let me back up.
Yes.
Let's go back to this term, American Dream. Now, that's used all the time. It's largely been associated before it was the American Dream, but in later years it was associated with Dr. King. Give me your take when I hear 2 terms, American Dream. What does that say to you, Mr. Fuller?
What I have written in the book, in a compensatory, I made up a term, a definition for it, since I couldn't get a straight answer from people whom I asked, what is the American dream. I mean, Martin Luther King laid out his definition of little white girls and little white boys holding hands, singing the Negro spiritual and whatnot. That was the American dream. Some people say the American dream is a house. Real estate people say this all the time. I've seen it in ads. In fact, I've had a number of ads where it said, realize the American dream. See Mr. J.J. Jenkins, real estate operator, and make your American dream come true. And it'll show a little picture of a picket fence and usually a 1950s-style bungalow house in the background. And sometimes, usually, but nowadays, either a white couple or a non-white couple, a black couple, or so-called quote-unquote Hispanic couple standing out front, smiling at the camera, and with one or two offspring standing nearby. The American dream, a house, mainly. But what I put in my book, the American dream, if you're really talking about what makes an American is a person that practices justice. You cannot be an American if you're not practicing justice. And since no one is practicing justice, it definitely is a dream. There's nobody on this planet that practices justice. Justice has not been established anywhere on this planet by the compensatory definition. And what is that definition again? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. That's a dream. That has not happened anywhere. So no one is qualified to be an American. That's a dream that everyone should continue to hold on to that dream and work to make it a reality. And also, while they're doing it, the African dream and the Asian dream. Because if the African dream and the Asian dream are not the same thing as the American dream, then what's the point in having an American dream, an African dream, or an Asian dream? What's the point in being an American, or an African, or an Asian? You don't even have to have a name, not to say anything about a title, to mistreat people. If you're just mistreating people, you're just a mistreater, and that should be your title. You're not a member of anything. You're not connected with anything. You're just a person walking around on this planet mistreating people. That's who you are. You're not an African, you're not an Asian, and you're definitely not an American, because African, Asian, and American all mean the same thing, people who practice justice. And since nobody practices justice, you have an African dream, an Asian dream, and an American dream.
Well, no, hold up for a minute. Now, hold up here, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Now, suppose I use the term Nazi Germany. Would that still be as the same as American? Would that still be the same as African?
No. Wait a minute. I'm saying with the system, you only have one system in place. These other things are dreams. American, when you say American, you're talking about a dream. You're talking about an intent.
Well, hold on for a minute. Hitler had a dream.
Yes, sir.
Hitler definitely had a dream.
Yes,
and Nazi
his dream was apparently to maintain white supremacy, which is the government that you already have. He wanted to maintain it. He said for 1,000 years anyway. I don't know how long it's been in operation so far, but apparently Hitler was known to be a racist, which means he believed in white supremacy. That's what I've heard. I'm not absolutely certain about that, but I've read some of his writings about what he said about Negroes. So I believe that Adolf Hitler, he's certainly being classified as white, would be a suspected racist anyway.
Well,
and a racist has one goal, and that's to maintain white supremacy.
And that's what people have said about the Mormon religion also. They said that it was based on looking at black people as devils walking around on earth. So would you classify that as a racist approach?
Any person who says that you have a right or a duty to mistreat someone based on color, and you're in position to do that, which the white supremacists, the white people who believe in white supremacy, are in that position, is a racist by definition. And that is the only government you have on the planet, because the non-white people are all subject to the white supremacists.
All right, Mr. Fuller. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yes.